Welcome to Legendary Night Stories, a channel where stories of technology and history come alive with art that feels both retro and futuristic. If you enjoy these journeys, remember to like and subscribe to help support future stories. In this video, we explore The Story Begins by exploring the earliest days of human society, focusing on the birth of agriculture and the establishment of the first settlements along fertile river valleys, told in simple words with a vision inspired by retro-futuristic dreams. Chapter 1. Dawn of Civilization. In the quiet hush before history began, the world was a tapestry of endless wilds. Vast plains of tall grass shimmered in the sunlight, and rivers wound their way through fertile valleys, quietly shaping the land. For countless generations, people wandered these open spaces, following herds of animals, gathering wild fruits and roots, listening to the gentle rhythm of the seasons. The air was filled with the sounds of birds and the soft rustle of wind in the trees as dawn broke gently over the horizon. In those days, life was simple and uncertain, each day a search for food, each night a time for stories around the warmth of a small fire. Yet, as the ages passed, something began to change in the hearts of the people. They watched the rivers swell and recede, saw how seeds would fall to the earth and, in time, become green shoots. They noticed the patterns of the stars, the cycles of the moon, and the steady return of the sun. Slowly, knowledge took root, as if whispered by the land itself. Along the banks of the great rivers, where the soil was rich and dark, they learned to plant the seeds of wild grasses. With patient hands, they nurtured these first gardens, returning day after day to tend to the tender shoots. They discovered the magic of water, guiding it with simple channels to feed their crops, watching as the golden stalks grew tall beneath the open sky. Life began to change, gently at first, then more swiftly as the seasons turned. Where once there had been wandering, now there was waiting. The people built simple shelters near their fields, woven from reeds and branches, their walls warm against the cool night air. Families gathered together, sharing the labor of planting and harvest, sharing stories and songs beneath the stars. The first villages were born, small clusters of homes beside the slow-moving rivers. Here the days found a new rhythm, shaped by the rising and setting of the sun, by the work of hands in the earth. The sounds of laughter and gentle conversation mingled with the calls of birds and the whisper of wind through ripening grain. In these quiet places, the seeds of community began to grow. People learned to work together, to share their tools and their wisdom, to help one another through times of plenty and times of hunger. They learned to shape clay from the riverbanks into pots for storing grain, to weave baskets for carrying food, to grind grain between smooth stones. With each small discovery, life became a little easier, a little more secure. The rivers, once only a source of water, became the lifeblood of these early settlements. Their gentle currents brought fish and reeds, cooled the air, and nourished the fields. Children played along the banks, watching the reflections of clouds in the water, dreaming of worlds beyond the horizon. At night, the fires of the village flickered softly, casting golden light on faces old and young. The people told stories of the great rivers, of the spirits of the land, of ancestors who had walked the world before them. They spoke of the mysteries of the stars, of dreams and hopes for the days to come. As the villages grew, so too did the bonds between people. They began to trade with neighbors along the river, exchanging grains and simple tools, sharing news of distant lands. Paths worn by many footsteps became the first roads, linking settlement to settlement across the fertile valleys. The rhythm of life was gentle and slow, marked by the changing seasons and the steady flow of the river. In the quiet moments, one could hear the soft hum of insects in the fields, the distant call of a night bird, the peaceful sigh of the wind through tall grass. The world felt vast and mysterious, yet close and comforting, as if the land itself cradled the people in its gentle embrace. In time, the knowledge of farming spread from valley to valley, carried by wandering families and curious travelers. Each new settlement added its own wisdom, its own songs and customs, weaving a tapestry of culture that stretched across the land. The people learned to build stronger homes from mud and stone, to shape the land with terraces and dikes. to store the harvest for the lean months of winter. With each passing generation, the villages grew into towns, the towns into the first cities. Yet even as life became more complex, the simple joys remained. The taste of fresh bread baked from the first harvest, the cool touch of river water on a warm day, the comfort of a shared meal at sunset. The world was changing, slowly and gently, shaped by the hands and hearts of those who called it home. The birth of agriculture and the rise of the first settlements marked the dawn of civilization. It was a time of hope and wonder, of quiet courage and gentle dreams. In the soft glow of dawn, with the river flowing quietly nearby, the people of these early days looked to the future with curiosity and care. Their story, woven from earth and water, from sunlight and shadow, would echo through the ages, a gentle reminder of how all great journeys begin. And as the night settles softly over the land, the world seems to pause, holding its breath at the threshold of something new. In the hush before the next chapter, the rivers still flow, the stars still shine, and the dreams of the first people linger in the quiet air. Chapter 2. The Rise of City-States. As the sun rises gently over the fertile plains, a soft golden light washes over fields that once lay wild and untamed. Now, neat rows of crops stretch as far as the eye can see, tended by hands that have learned the rhythm of planting and harvest. The air is filled with the quiet hum of life, the distant sounds of families working together, their laughter and voices drifting through the morning mist. In these early moments, communities awaken, each person knowing their role, each task woven into the fabric of daily survival. The scent of earth, rich and promising, lingers in the cool breeze, while water channels glisten as they wind their way through the land, nourishing every seed and root. Over time, the simple villages begin to change. Mud brick houses rise in orderly clusters, their walls decorated with patterns that tell stories of ancestors and dreams. Pathways, once just trampled grass, become well-trodden roads linking homes, granaries, and gathering places. In the heart of each settlement, a central square emerges, a place where people meet to exchange goods, share news, and celebrate the turning of the seasons. The marketplace buzzes with life as traders arrive from distant lands, their carts laden with pottery, woven cloth, and spices that carry the scent of faraway places. Coins and tokens pass from hand to hand, each one a symbol of trust and the promise of future trade. The city grows upward and outward, shaped by both necessity and imagination. Walls of stone and clay are built, encircling the city to protect it from the unknown. Watchtowers rise, their sentinels keeping careful eyes on the horizon, alert for travelers or threats that may appear beyond the fields. Inside the walls, life becomes more intricate. Artisans shape metal and wood, their workshops filled with the clang of hammers and the soft whisper of spinning wheels. Children play in narrow alleys, chasing shadows and laughter, while elders sit beneath the shade of trees, sharing stories that bind the past to the present. Social hierarchies begin to form. Some families claim descent from legendary ancestors, their names spoken with reverence. Others rise through skill or clever trade, their influence growing as their fortunes increase. At the top, leaders emerge, chiefs and councils who settle disputes, organize defenses, and oversee the rituals that mark the passage of time. Their homes are grander, set apart with gardens and courtyards, symbols of their authority and responsibility. Religious institutions take root at the heart of the city. Temples rise, their columns reaching skyward, adorned with carvings of gods and mythical beasts. Priests and priestesses tend sacred fires, offer prayers, and interpret the will of the divine. The scent of incense drifts through the air, mingling with the sounds of chanting and the gentle ringing of bells. Festivals bring the city together as people gather to honor the gods, share feasts, and dance beneath the stars. The city-state becomes a living tapestry, each thread a person, a family, a tradition. Trade networks expand, weaving connections across rivers and mountains, linking city to city, culture to culture. Caravans set out at dawn, their wagons heavy with grain, textiles, and precious stones. At night, fires flicker along the trade routes, and stories are exchanged in many tongues. The city's influence grows, its name carried far by merchants and travelers. Yet within the walls, daily life continues its gentle rhythm. Bakers rise before dawn to knead dough and light ovens, filling the streets with the warm scent of bread. Potters shape clay into vessels that will carry water and wine. Weavers create fabrics dyed in brilliant hues, their patterns inspired by the world around them. Children learn from their elders, watching and listening as skills are passed down from hand to hand, heart to heart. The seasons turn, each bringing its own challenges and blessings. Floods and droughts test the city's resolve, but the people adapt, building reservoirs, digging wells, and storing grain for lean times. In moments of peace, music drifts through the streets, played on flutes and drums, echoing through courtyards and open windows. The city-state stands as a testament to human ingenuity and cooperation. It is a place where dreams take shape in stone and song, where every sunrise brings the promise of new beginnings. As night falls, lanterns flicker along the walls, casting soft pools of light that guide travelers home. The city breathes, alive with the hopes and memories of all who dwell within. In the quiet hours, beneath a sky filled with stars, the people rest, their hearts bound together by the shared story of their city. Tomorrow, the cycle will begin again. The fields will awaken, the markets will bustle, and the city will continue to grow, shaped by the hands and dreams of those who call it home. Chapter 3. The Invention of Writing. In the gentle hush of ancient lands, long before the world was mapped by lines and letters, people gazed at the stars and wondered how to share their stories across the endless stretch of time. In those early days, the spoken word was as fleeting as a breath. Memories drifted on the wind, and tales were passed from one voice to another, shaped by the warmth of a fire or the coolness of a midnight sky. But there came a moment when the need to remember, to record, and to reach beyond the present became too strong to ignore. In the fertile valleys between great rivers, where soft clay met the touch of careful hands, the first signs of writing began to appear. Marks pressed into wet earth, symbols shaped with reeds, each impression holding a secret meaning only the initiated could know. These were the beginnings of cuneiform, born in the lands of Sumer. With each wedge and line, a new world was unfolding. Farmers could now track the grain stored after harvest, and rulers could command their people with words that lasted longer than any voice. The act of writing transformed the way people lived and worked. It brought a sense of order to the chaos of daily life, allowing thoughts to be preserved and knowledge to grow from one generation to the next. As the sun set over the great rivers, scribes would sit quietly, their hands steady, their eyes focused, capturing the ebb and flow of life in the language of symbols. The clay tablets they left behind would outlast even the grandest of palaces, carrying the wisdom of their age into the distant future. In another corner of the world, along the green banks of the Nile, a different kind of writing was taking shape. Here the people looked to the world around them and saw meaning in the flight of birds, the curve of a reed, the shining eye of a falcon. They wove these visions into hieroglyphics, a script of pictures and dreams. Each sign was more than a word. It was a story, a prayer, a hope for the journey beyond life. The walls of temples and tombs became silent storytellers, holding the secrets of kings and the wishes of the humble. In the cool shade of the temple, artists and scribes dipped their brushes into pools of ink, painting the story of Egypt in lines that flowed like the river itself. The invention of writing was not a single moment, but a slow unfolding, like dawn spreading across the horizon. It was born from the longing to remember, to connect, and to make sense of a world that was always changing. With every mark, every symbol, humanity learned to reach beyond the boundaries of time and space. The written word became a bridge, linking people across generations and continents, allowing wisdom to flow like water from one heart to another. As writing spread, it took on many forms. In distant lands, traders and travelers carried the idea of writing with them, adapting it to new languages and new needs. The Phoenicians would later shape a simple alphabet, a tool so flexible it could capture the sounds of any tongue. Greeks and Romans would follow, refining and spreading this gift across the ancient world. In quiet corners, children learned to shape letters with careful hands, their eyes wide with wonder at the power contained in a single word. The invention of writing was a revolution not of weapons or kings, but of minds and dreams. It gave rise to libraries filled with knowledge, to poetry and law, to the stories that still echo in our hearts. In the soft glow of lamplight, a scribe might pause, listening to the gentle scratch of the stylus on clay or the whisper of a brush on papyrus. Each stroke was a promise that what mattered most would not be lost to silence or time. And so, as the night deepens and the world grows quiet, imagine those ancient hands at work, shaping the first words, giving form to thought, and opening the door to all the stories yet to come. The invention of writing was the beginning of memory, the dawn of history, and the gentle heartbeat of civilization. Chapter 4: Empires and Conquests. In the quiet before dawn, the land rests beneath a pale sky, the world holding its breath as the first empires begin to stir. Here, in the cradle of the ancient world, the cities of Babylon and Assyria rise from the earth like dreams given form, their walls stretching wide and tall, their gates adorned with the symbols of power and destiny. The rivers flow steadily, carrying the lifeblood of these civilizations, nourishing fields of barley and wheat, and reflecting the flickering torchlight of watchful sentinels who patrol the city ramparts. In the distance, the sound of marching feet grows stronger each day, the steady rhythm a sign of armies preparing for conquest. Banners fluttering in the morning breeze, shields polished to a dull gleam, spears held upright in disciplined hands. The rulers of these empires, seated upon thrones carved from stone and wood, gaze out over their domains with eyes both proud and wary. They know that to hold power is to invite challenge, and so they plot strategies in shadowed halls, whispering of alliances and betrayals, of swift horses and secret messengers who ride through the night. The heart of Babylon beats with the pulse of ambition, its ziggurats rising tier upon tier toward the heavens, each level a testament to the city's faith and ingenuity. Priests and scholars ascend the steps, their robes brushing ancient stones as they carry offerings and scrolls filled with knowledge. In the cool chambers below, scribes press wet clay into tablets, recording the stories of kings, the laws that bind the people, the victories and sorrows that shape the land. The markets are alive with color and sound, merchants calling out the virtues of their wares, spices and textiles mingling in the air, coins clinking softly as trade weaves its invisible web through every quarter. Children play in the courtyards, their laughter rising above the hum of the crowd, while elders gather in shaded corners, telling tales of gods and heroes, of battles won and lost beneath the watchful gaze of the stars. Each evening, as the sun dips low, the city glows with the golden light of countless lamps, the promise of another day shimmering on the horizon. Beyond the city walls, the Assyrian armies assemble with quiet purpose, their discipline unmatched, their resolve as steady as the stones beneath their feet. Generals walk among the ranks, their voices calm and measured, offering words of encouragement and warning alike. The soldiers adjust their armor, check the edges of their swords, and share silent nods with comrades who have stood with them through countless campaigns. Horses stamp and snort, the air thick with anticipation, while chariots gleam in the early light, their wheels ready to carve new paths across the open plains. The Assyrians are known not only for their might, but for their cunning. Scouts slip away into the shadows, gathering intelligence, mapping the terrain, and seeking out weaknesses in enemy defenses. In their camps, fires burn low, and the scent of roasted grain and fresh bread drifts on the breeze, a reminder of home and the promise of return. When the time comes, the armies move with swift precision, crossing rivers and mountains, forging ahead through dust and heat. Their banners announce their arrival, bold colors rippling against the sky, while trumpets sound in the valleys below. The clash of battle is fierce and unyielding, swords ringing against shields, arrows darkening the sky for a moment before falling in a rain of fate. Yet victory is not won by strength alone. The leaders of these empires rely on careful planning, on the wisdom of advisors, and the loyalty of their people. In the aftermath, the conquerors offer terms to the defeated, inviting them to join the growing empire, to share in its protection and prosperity. Cities are rebuilt, temples restored, and new laws written to bring order to lands once divided by strife. The cycle of conquest and renewal continues, each generation building upon the legacy of those who came before, each stone laid with hope for a future that will outlast the memory of war. Within the heart of these empires, culture flourishes alongside power. Artists carve intricate reliefs into palace walls, scenes of hunting and celebration immortalized in stone for all to see. Musicians fill the air with haunting melodies, their songs echoing the triumphs and laments of a people shaped by destiny. Scholars gather in quiet rooms, studying the stars and the turning of seasons, seeking to understand the mysteries of time and the will of the gods. The written word spreads from city to city, carried on tablets and parchment, preserving the wisdom of ages for those yet to come. Festivals fill the streets with color and joy, dancers weaving patterns through the crowds, children marveling at the wonders of the world their ancestors have built. In the hush of night, when all is still, the empires dream of tomorrow, their hopes carried on the wind, their stories whispered beneath the endless sky. And so the age of empires unfolds, a tapestry of ambition and achievement, woven from the threads of courage, wisdom, and the longing for something greater than oneself. Chapter 5. Philosophy and Knowledge. In the gentle hush of ancient times, a new curiosity began to stir across distant lands. In sunlit courtyards and shaded olive groves, people gathered to ask questions about the world, about themselves, and about the mysteries that shaped their lives. The air was thick with wonder, as if every stone and every star might hold a secret waiting to be discovered. In the heart of Greece, where the sea shimmered in the distance and the mountains stood like silent guardians, thinkers and dreamers began to shape the first ideas of philosophy. They wondered why the seasons changed, why the moon waxed and waned, and what it meant to live a good life. Their voices rose in quiet discussion, sometimes gentle, sometimes passionate, weaving together the threads of reason and imagination. Under the dappled sunlight, a young student listened to the wise words of an older teacher. The air scented with wild thyme and the distant sound of water trickling from a marble fountain. The teacher spoke of the four elements, earth, air, fire, and water, and how everything in the world was made from these simple things. The student closed his eyes and imagined the world as a great puzzle, each piece connected to the next in ways both simple and profound. Across the sea, in other lands, similar questions echoed in different tongues. In Egypt, scholars measured the stars and watched the slow rise and fall of the Nile, their minds turning over the patterns of nature and the cycles of time. In India, wise sages sat beneath banyan trees, breathing in the warm air and pondering the nature of reality, the self, and the endless turning of life. In China, ancient philosophers wrote careful words on bamboo slips, thinking about harmony, balance, and the path that each person must walk. Yet in Greece, something unique was blossoming. Here, the questions became a shared adventure, a journey not just for the wise but for anyone willing to listen, to speak, and to wonder. The city of Athens, bright and bustling, became a gathering place for minds hungry for knowledge. In the bustling agora, the open marketplace, ideas flowed as freely as the laughter of children chasing pigeons across the sun-warmed stones. Socrates, a man with a gentle smile and searching eyes, wandered among the people, asking simple questions that led to deep truths. He believed that wisdom began with admitting how little one truly knew. His method was gentle but persistent, like water shaping stone, always seeking the heart of things. People gathered around him, drawn by the promise of understanding themselves and their world a little better with each conversation. The streets of Athens became a living classroom, filled with the soft murmur of voices, the scratch of styluses on wax tablets, and the rustle of togas in the breeze. As the sun set behind the hills, the city glowed with the warmth of shared thought and the quiet joy of discovery. Beyond philosophy, the Greeks also turned their minds to the mysteries of numbers and the patterns hidden in nature. In cool, shaded rooms, mathematicians drew careful lines in the sand, tracing triangles and circles, seeking the rules that governed the world. Pythagoras, with his love of numbers and music, believed that everything in the universe could be understood through harmony and proportion. He listened to the sound of strings, watched the movement of the stars, and saw in them the beauty of order. Euclid, patient and precise, wrote about geometry, building a foundation that would last for centuries. His work was like a map showing the way through the maze of shapes and spaces. The Greeks were not alone in this search. In Babylon, scribes pressed symbols into soft clay, recording calculations that would help measure the land and track the stars. In India, mathematicians played with numbers, discovering patterns that would shape the future of arithmetic. In China, scholars invented clever tools to solve problems and wrote about the mysteries of change and chance. All across the world, people were reaching out, trying to capture the hidden rules that shaped their lives. Science, in its earliest form, began as a gentle curiosity, a willingness to look closely at the world and ask why things happened as they did. In Greece, thinkers like Aristotle watched the flight of birds and the growth of plants, writing careful notes about what they saw. They believed that by observing nature, by trusting their senses and their reason, they could uncover the secrets of life itself. Their questions were simple, their tools few, but their dreams were as vast as the sky above them. The world became a kind of book, waiting to be read and understood. In quiet workshops, inventors tinkered with levers and pulleys, trying to lift heavy stones and move water from one place to another. Each small success was a step toward understanding the laws that governed the world, and each failure was a lesson in patience and humility. The Greeks loved to tell stories, and many of their tales were woven into their search for knowledge. Myths and legends danced alongside reason and observation, creating a tapestry where imagination and logic could walk hand in hand. The story of Atlantis, a city lost beneath the waves, became a symbol of the mysteries that lay just beyond the edge of understanding. It was a reminder that knowledge is always a journey, and that some questions may never be fully answered. As the stars wheeled overhead and the night grew quiet, the thinkers of ancient times continued their gentle search. They knew that wisdom did not come all at once, but in small, patient steps. Each question led to another. Each answer opened new doors. The legacy of their curiosity would echo through the centuries, shaping the way people everywhere would think, dream, and wonder. Even now, as we drift into sleep, we can imagine ourselves among them, listening to the soft voices of the past, letting their questions carry us into the gentle embrace of night. Chapter 6. Religious Traditions and Rituals. Throughout the long arc of human history, people have looked up at the sky and wondered about the mysteries that stretch beyond the reach of their hands. In the earliest days, the world was alive with unseen forces, and every sunrise, every storm, every harvest seemed to whisper of powers just out of sight. Across the river valleys of Egypt, the priests walked softly among the columns of great stone temples, their footsteps echoing in the cool shadows. They carried offerings of bread and fragrant oil, lighting lamps before statues of gods with falcon heads and lion bodies. The air was thick with incense, and the prayers rose like smoke through shafts of sunlight, drifting upward in hopes of pleasing Ra, the sun god, or Osiris, the ruler of the afterlife. The Nile's gentle flooding was seen as a divine gift, a sign that the gods watched over the land and its people. In the hush of dawn, a procession would form, winding past painted walls that told stories of creation and rebirth. The sacred rituals marked the turning of the year and the journey of the soul beyond this life, each gesture and word woven into a tapestry of faith. Across the desert, in the lands of Mesopotamia, another rhythm of devotion took shape. Here the ziggurats towered above the flat plains, their stepped sides climbing toward the heavens. At the top, priests and priestesses tended fires that never went out, calling to Anu, god of the sky, and Inanna, goddess of love and war. The people brought offerings of barley cakes and sweet dates, hoping for rain and good fortune. In the bustling markets and quiet homes, small clay figurines stood as guardians, protecting families from illness and misfortune. Festivals filled the city streets with music and laughter, while solemn chants echoed through the temple halls at night. The stars above were not just distant lights, but signs and messages guiding the fate of kings and commoners alike. Farther east, in the lands that would become Persia, rituals unfolded beneath open skies and sacred fires. The followers of Zoroaster gathered to honor Ahura Mazda, the wise lord, and to keep alive the flame that symbolized truth and order. Priests in white robes recited ancient verses, their voices blending with the wind as they tended the eternal fire. The struggle between light and darkness became a central theme, a story retold in every ritual and prayer. Each day, as the sun rose, people greeted it with reverence, believing that through good thoughts, good words, and good deeds, they could help keep chaos at bay. In the forests and mountains of Europe, other traditions grew in the quiet spaces between trees and rivers. Here, the sacred was found in the rustle of leaves and the flight of birds, in the turning of the seasons and the cycles of the moon. Druids and wise women gathered at ancient stone circles, offering songs and simple gifts to the spirits of earth and sky. The rituals were woven into daily life, marking births and harvests, honoring ancestors whose stories were passed down in whispered tales. Across the world, in distant lands and forgotten villages, people shaped their own ways of reaching beyond the everyday. In the Americas, great cities rose with temples that pointed toward the stars. The Maya watched the heavens and built calendars to honor the gods who ruled time and fate. Priests painted in bright colors led ceremonies filled with music, dance, and the scent of burning copal. In Africa, the drumbeats called people to gather beneath the open sky, where stories and songs carried the wisdom of generations. Masks and carvings brought spirits to life, and every ritual was a bridge between the living and the world of ancestors. Even in the far north, where the nights were long and cold, the people gathered around fires to tell stories of the spirits in the wind and the animals that roamed the tundra. Shamans guided the people through dreams and visions, seeking answers in the flickering light. Across all these lands, religion was not just a set of beliefs, but a living, breathing part of every day. It shaped how people saw the world and their place in it, offering comfort in times of trouble and hope for the future. The rituals, whether grand or simple, were moments of connection to each other, to the land, and to mysteries that could not be seen but were deeply felt. In every prayer whispered at dawn, in every song sung to the stars, people found meaning and belonging. The ancient stories, passed from parent to child, became the threads that held communities together. As night falls and the world grows quiet, these traditions remind us that we are all part of something larger. The gentle rhythm of ritual, the warmth of shared belief, the beauty of reaching for the divine. These are the gifts that echo through time, inviting us to pause, to listen, and to dream. And so, across the ages, the sacred lives on. In the glow of candles, in the hush of temples, in the laughter of festivals, and in the silent hope carried in every heart. Chapter 7. Art and Architecture. In the gentle hush of ancient Atlantis, the world was shaped not only by the tides and the stars, but by the hands of artisans whose dreams became stone, metal, and light. The city itself rose from the sea like a vision, its sweeping avenues lined with colonnades that shimmered in the soft golden glow of the sun. Temples and palaces soared, their facades carved with swirling motifs that seemed to ripple and dance as the day's light changed. These were not just buildings, but living expressions of hope and memory, each stone set with care, each archway whispering the secrets of the past. The artisans of Atlantis were revered, their skills passed from generation to generation, their hearts attuned to the rhythm of the earth and the music of the spheres. They believed that beauty was a kind of magic, a force that could heal, inspire, and connect the soul to the divine. In every public square, statues stood silent and serene, gazing out over the city with eyes of polished stone, their faces calm and wise, their postures graceful and strong. Some depicted ancient kings and queens draped in flowing robes, their hands outstretched in gestures of welcome or blessing. Others showed the gods and goddesses of the deep, their forms both human and otherworldly, adorned with shells and pearls, crowned with coral and gold. The sculptors worked with marble, bronze, and crystal, coaxing from each material a new story, a new vision of what Atlantis could be. Fountains gushed with clear water, their basins ringed with mosaics that glittered like stars. Tiny tiles arranged in spirals and waves, echoing the eternal motion of the sea. Along the great processional ways, murals stretched for hundreds of feet, painted in colors that seemed to glow from within. These murals told the history of Atlantis in gentle, flowing lines. The founding of the city, the wisdom of its rulers, the harmony between people and nature. They depicted festivals where men and women danced beneath lanterns, their faces lit by joy and wonder, their garments swirling in the warm evening breeze. Art was everywhere, woven into the very fabric of daily life. Even the smallest household objects were shaped with care, their surfaces etched with delicate patterns, their handles smooth and cool to the touch. Pottery glistened with glazes of deep blue and emerald green, each bowl and cup a tiny masterpiece, made to honor both function and beauty. Jewelry sparkled on wrists and necks, crafted from silver, amber, and precious stones gathered from the farthest reaches of the world. These adornments were more than decoration. They were talismans, tokens of love, symbols of protection and hope. In the heart of the city stood the Grand Gallery, a vast hall supported by towering pillars carved to resemble trees, their branches arching overhead in a canopy of stone. Here the greatest works of Atlantean art were displayed for all to see. Paintings of mythic beasts and distant lands, tapestries woven with threads of gold, sculptures so lifelike they seemed ready to breathe and speak. The gallery was a place of quiet contemplation where citizens came to reflect, to feel the pulse of creativity that bound them together as a people. Light filtered through stained glass windows, casting colored patterns on the floor, shifting and changing as the sun moved across the sky. The air was filled with the scent of polished wood, fresh flowers, and the faint trace of incense. Musicians played gentle melodies on lyres and flutes, their music mingling with the hush of footsteps and the soft murmur of voices. Outside, the city's bridges arched gracefully over canals, their balustrades adorned with carvings of dolphins and seabirds, their surfaces worn smooth by centuries of hands and feet. Gardens bloomed with every shade of green, their paths winding between fountains and statues, their flowerbeds alive with the hum of bees and the flutter of butterflies. The people of Atlantis cherished these spaces, tending them with patience and pride, knowing that beauty, like water, must be nurtured and shared. At night, lanterns glowed along the walkways, their light reflected in pools and streams, turning the city into a dreamscape of gold and silver. In the quiet moments before sleep, families gathered in courtyards to tell stories, their voices weaving together the old legends and the new. Children listened with wide eyes as tales of ancient heroes and magical creatures unfolded, each story a thread in the tapestry of their lives. The art and architecture of Atlantis were more than the sum of their parts. They were a living testament to the power of imagination, to the bonds of community, to the endless search for meaning and beauty. In every carving, every painting, every carefully laid stone, the spirit of Atlantis endured, whispering to those who would listen. In this city of dreams, art was not separate from life, but its very heartbeat. And as the stars wheeled overhead and the ocean murmured against the shore, the people of Atlantis found comfort and wonder in the world they had created, trusting that their legacy would shine on, long after the city itself had faded into legend. Chapter 8. Trade and Cultural Exchange. In the gentle hush of early morning, when the world was still young and the seas held mysteries yet untold, ancient civilizations awoke to the promise of distant lands. Across rolling deserts, through dense forests, and over vast, shimmering waters, people began to wander, drawn by the allure of what lay beyond the horizon. The story of trade is a story of curiosity, of hands reaching out to touch the unfamiliar, to bring home treasures that shimmered with the light of other worlds. Long before the written word, before the rise of great empires, there were already winding paths and secret trails, woven like threads across the earth. These were the first trade routes, silent witnesses to the footsteps of travelers who carried not only goods, but dreams and stories and the seeds of change. Along the banks of wide rivers, bustling markets sprang to life with the dawn, their air thick with the scent of spices and the hum of many tongues. Here woven fabrics from distant lands mingled with baskets of fruit and bolts of dyed cloth, while merchants bartered and laughed, their faces alight with hope. The rivers themselves became highways, bearing slender boats laden with pottery, grain, and precious stones, gliding gently downstream to villages and cities far away. Each exchange was more than a simple trade. It was a meeting of worlds, a quiet dance between cultures, as new ideas and customs slipped quietly into the hearts of those who listened. Across the dry expanse of the Silk Road, caravans of camels padded softly through the sand, their burdens heavy with silk, jade, and knowledge. The desert wind whispered secrets, carrying tales of distant emperors and the wonders of lands unseen. At night, the travelers gathered around low fires, sharing songs and stories under a sky scattered with stars, their laughter weaving invisible bonds that stretched from one civilization to another. The Silk Road was not just a path for goods, but a living artery that pulsed with the lifeblood of invention, faith, and art. As travelers moved east and west, they carried with them new beliefs, languages, and ways of seeing the world, leaving behind a trail of inspiration wherever they passed. Far to the south, the Indian Ocean shimmered beneath the sun, its surface alive with the sails of ships bound for lands unknown. On these restless waters, sailors navigated by the stars, their eyes searching the horizon for the promise of adventure. They brought with them fragrant spices, brilliant jewels, and rare woods, their ships heavy with the hopes of those who waited at distant ports. The ocean was a bridge, connecting kingdoms and cultures, allowing ideas and inventions to travel freely with the tides. In the ports, the air was thick with the mingling scents of cinnamon, pepper, and incense, as traders from many lands met to share news, laughter, and wisdom. Every handshake sealed not just a bargain, but a friendship, a promise that the world could be wide and welcoming. In the far north, across snowy plains and deep forests, the ancient peoples of Europe and Asia carved out their own networks of exchange. Amber, furs, and metals traveled along winding rivers and through mountain passes, linking distant tribes and forging new alliances. The journey was often perilous, with storms and wild beasts lurking in the shadows, but the promise of connection was stronger than fear. Each encounter along the way left a mark, a memory, a lesson passed down through generations. In every corner of the ancient world, trade became a gentle current, carrying with it the gifts of language, art, and belief. It was through these exchanges that alphabets spread, that music found new rhythms, and that faiths blossomed in faraway lands. The world grew smaller, not through conquest, but through curiosity and kindness. The roads and rivers that once seemed endless became familiar as people learned to see themselves reflected in the eyes of strangers. Over time, great cities rose at the crossroads of trade, their streets alive with color and sound. Alexandria, Babylon, Chang'an, and countless others became melting pots where cultures mingled, ideas flourished, and the future was quietly written. In the shadows of grand temples and bustling markets, children learned new words, artists found fresh inspiration, and merchants dreamed of journeys yet to come. The echoes of these ancient exchanges linger even now in the stories we tell, the foods we share, and the music that drifts softly through the night. Trade and cultural exchange did more than shape the fortunes of empires. They wove a tapestry of connection that endures, reminding us that every journey, every encounter, is a thread in the great story of humanity. As you drift gently into sleep, imagine those travelers of long ago, their footsteps softly fading into the distance. Let the memory of their courage and curiosity carry you across the seas of dreams, where every horizon holds the promise of discovery, and every night is filled with the gentle hum of worlds meeting and becoming one. Chapter 9. The Fall and Legacy. In the quiet hush before dawn, the world seems to hold its breath, remembering the rise and fall of ancient civilizations. Once, grand cities stood proud beneath the sun, their towers reaching for the sky, their streets alive with laughter and song. These were places where wisdom blossomed and dreams were woven into the very stones. But even the greatest empires must one day bow to the gentle, patient passage of time. As centuries slipped by, the proud walls crumbled and the voices of the past faded into soft echoes. Yet in the silence that followed, something precious remained. The legacy of those who came before lingered like a soft fragrance on the night air. Their stories, their laws, their knowledge, all became seeds, scattered across the world, waiting to take root once more. Imagine walking through the ruins of a forgotten city, the stones cool beneath your feet, moss growing in the cracks, and ivy curling along the walls. The wind whispers through broken columns, carrying tales of heroes and philosophers, of artists and builders, of families who laughed and loved in the shadow of temples and palaces. In these quiet places, you can almost hear the gentle hum of ancient voices, sharing secrets and lessons learned long ago. The fall of these civilizations was not just an ending, but a transformation. Like autumn leaves drifting softly to the earth, their decline made way for new growth, new ideas, and new beginnings. The wisdom of old laws survived in the codes that guide us today. The beauty of their art and music echoes in our own creations, and the questions they asked still stir within our hearts. Picture a library, long ago, filled with scrolls and tablets, each one a treasure trove of knowledge. Scholars gathered in the soft glow of oil lamps, their eyes bright with curiosity, their hands tracing the symbols of languages now lost to time. These guardians of wisdom worked tirelessly to preserve what mattered most, copying texts, debating ideas, and dreaming of a future where their discoveries would light the way for others. Even as empires fell and cities turned to dust, the flame of knowledge was carried onward, passed from one generation to the next. Across the ages, travelers and traders journeyed far and wide, sharing stories, inventions, and beliefs. Cultures mingled, borrowing and blending, weaving a tapestry of human experience that became richer with every strand. The fall of ancient worlds was not a single moment, but a slow, gentle fading, like the dimming of stars at dawn. Yet their legacies endured, shaping the languages we speak, the laws we follow, and the dreams we dare to dream. In quiet moments, we can still feel the presence of those who came before. Their hopes and fears, their triumphs and mistakes, all echo softly in the world we know. The ruins they left behind invite us to pause, to listen, and to remember. Each stone, each fragment holds a piece of the story, waiting to be discovered anew. The legacy of ancient civilizations is not just found in monuments or artifacts, but in the way we live, the questions we ask, and the kindness we show to one another. Their wisdom reminds us that even as things change and fade, something beautiful can always be carried forward. As you drift toward sleep, imagine yourself as a silent observer, watching the ebb and flow of time, seeing how the old gives way to the new. The lessons of the past are like gentle lanterns, lighting the path ahead, guiding us through the darkness with their soft, enduring glow. In the quiet of the night, let the stories of ancient civilizations wrap around you like a warm blanket, comforting and wise. Their fall was never truly an end, but the beginning of something lasting and profound. The legacy they left behind is alive in every act of curiosity, every moment of learning, and every dream that grows in the fertile soil of memory. Rest now, knowing that you are part of this unbroken chain, a living link to all who have come before. The world is filled with echoes of ancient voices, and their gentle wisdom will always be here, waiting to be heard whenever you are ready to listen. Chapter 10. Peaceful Reflections. As the story of Atlantis comes to a gentle close, the world seems to grow quieter, as if holding its breath in a moment of calm. The city, once alive with shimmering lights and the hum of discovery, now rests beneath a sky painted in soft hues of twilight. The air is cool and gentle, carrying with it the distant echo of ancient songs, melodies that have drifted through time and memory. The marble streets, smooth and worn by countless footsteps, reflect the last golden rays of the setting sun, casting long, tranquil shadows that stretch across the silent plazas. In these quiet spaces, the laughter and voices of generations seem to linger, woven into the very stones and gardens of this timeless place. The grand temples stand serene, their columns rising like guardians of wisdom, sheltering the stories and dreams of those who once walked here. Nearby, the gentle flow of water from crystal fountains brings a sense of peace, the soft sound mingling with the whisper of leaves in the evening breeze. The scent of blooming flowers drifts through the air, sweet and calming, inviting all who remain to pause and reflect. As night deepens, the city glows with a gentle, otherworldly light, as if the stars themselves have come to rest upon the rooftops and domes. The ocean, ever present and eternal, laps quietly at the edges of Atlantis, its waves carrying secrets and memories from distant shores. Standing at the water's edge, one can feel the deep connection between land and sea, between the past and the present. a bond that endures beyond the reach of time. The people of Atlantis, though now shadows in legend, are remembered for their wisdom, their kindness, and their endless curiosity. Their lives were filled with moments of wonder and learning, of simple joys and shared dreams. In the hush of night, their spirit lingers, inviting us to listen closely to the lessons they left behind. These lessons speak of harmony, of living gently with the world and with each other, of cherishing every sunrise and every quiet evening. They remind us that true greatness is found not in power or wealth, but in understanding, compassion, and the courage to dream. As you rest, imagine the gentle rhythm of Atlantis continuing beneath the waves, its gardens blooming in the darkness, its halls echoing with laughter and song. Picture the city's towers rising into the starry sky, their windows shining with a soft, welcoming glow. Imagine wandering through peaceful courtyards, feeling the cool stone beneath your feet, and hearing the distant music of celebration and reflection. In this moment, you are a part of Atlantis, a guest in its eternal night, invited to share in its peace and wisdom. The world outside grows still, and the worries of the day drift away like mist over the sea. Each breath you take is slow and gentle, each heartbeat echoing the calm of ancient times. The stories of Atlantis wrap around you like a soft blanket, comforting and safe, guiding you toward restful sleep. As you close your eyes, let the memories of this lost city fill your dreams with hope and wonder. Know that the wisdom of the past is always within reach, waiting to offer comfort and guidance whenever you seek it. In the quiet of the night, Atlantis lives on, not just in legend, but in the peaceful reflections that settle in your heart. The journey may be ending, but the story continues, carried forward by those who remember, who dream, and who find peace in the gentle embrace of history. Rest now, knowing that you are part of something timeless and beautiful. A story that will linger in the quiet moments before dawn, and in the peaceful reflections that lead you into sleep.